Persuasion methods, cognitive biases, copywriting principles. Today I'm going to be going through this document that really encapsulates all three of these things and is basically an ongoing document that I've kept over the years, and it basically just lists out all the things that I've learned over my time copywriting and working within marketing and learning about marketing in general. So a lot of these things come from copywriting courses, books, etc. A lot of them come from psychology, books, classes, courses, etc. Even things come from science. I'm a big fan of what is called multidisciplinary thinking, which is the method of taking principles from certain disciplines such as science or mathematics or statistics and then applying them to other aspects. An easy example of this is applying the foundational psychology learnings or principles to marketing and then building your marketing off of that. So today I'm going to jump into this document. I'm going to share around the top 20 ones I have listed in here. I'm not going to share all of them. A lot of these I can definitely see being used the wrong way by people who, let's say, push their ethical boundaries when it comes to their marketing, either straight out lying in their marketing and making claims that aren't true, or if they're selling products that aren't beneficial to the people at all, or if the products just straight up don't work. So for now, I'm going to keep some of them to myself, but I'm going to go with the top 20, which is also a mix of some email-specific learnings and strategies as well. So let's get straight into it. This first one is definitely just an email idea, and it is a reminder for when you're writing an email, it's best to keep one major idea per email. So it's easier to go off on tangents with the emails, and you end up adding in different ideas, and the email often ends up being way too long. But all these ideas or all these different segments of the email or the copy often mesh together fully, and it's not a net addition. And this rule or this idea is just a reminder to keep the email as simple as possible, following one major idea or logic path, and don't add in any extra bullshit or stuff that isn't needed. Next one is this one major call to action per email. Again, this is just a reminder, and this has been tested by other people within the marketing world, but we found, and most direct response companies / people have found, that using one major call to action per email does best, and funneling people all into one major call to action or using all the effort or all the resources, all the copy within the email to funnel people to do one main thing is the ideal solution. Now you can do sub call to actions if you need to and when it makes sense, but again, as a rule, I definitely recommend using one major call to action per email. Always lead with your best shit. This is a quote that I got from a marketing mentor a few years back, but it's just a reminder to always lead with your best stuff. If you have a good offer or a major benefit point or a major pain point that you're leaning on and it really holds most of the weight of the copy or of the email that you're writing, then make sure to put that first within the first 30% or within the lead of the email, because a lot of people won't end up reading the whole email or all of your copy. So by putting it first, you make sure that the majority of the people see it, and it also increases their likelihood that they're going to read the rest of the copy or the rest of the email. Next is email leads. This is just a reminder when you're writing email leads to make it as short and as easy to read or start reading as possible. The first 1 to 5 lines should be single sentence lines, as with the first 3 lines especially being as short and punchy as possible, and basically make it as easy for the reader to start reading the email as possible. Do not start your emails with blocks of 3 to 5 sentences or even 2 to 3 sentences, especially these days when people's attention span is shorter than ever. They're becoming less and less likely to start reading or read big blocks of text, especially when they're confronted with a big block of text at the very start of reading the copy or the email. Next is scarcity. People often talk about scarcity, but they don't actually define or know what it is. So just a quick reminder, scarcity is a function of quantity. So if you want to use scarcity, you're talking about the quantity of a product. So examples of this is only 10 spots available if you're selling a coaching program or something like that, or limited availability, or if you're talking about stock, you can talk about limited stock, or basically any other function of quantity, as opposed to urgency, which is often mistaken for a similar thing or the same thing, where urgency is a function of time. So basically anything regarding time is when you're talking about urgency, and to define the two and to separate the two, urgency is a function of time, scarcity is a function of quantity, and they can definitely both be used at the same time, especially during the end of a sale. We can talk about limited amounts of stock left or a certain number of stock left. So if you can actually say, we only have 14 bottles of X product left, and the sale ends in 3 hours, then that's like a double whammy. And these two psychological levers, when compounded, are extra effective. So when you can use both of them at the same time, but this is just basically defining the two and reminding you how to use them differently. Credibility. Now, credibility within your marketing and within your email marketing is especially important. If you're any sort of authority figure or any sort of brand that is looking to sell products wherein you need some level of authority/credibility within your brand or associated with your brand, then it's better to harp on 3 to 5 key points of your credibility rather than talking about 5 to 10 points, but less consistently reminding the people of the main 3 to 5. Like, for example, it's better to tell the same people the same 3 credibility sort of resources or accolades or achievements that you have, rather than telling them 10 over that same period. It's better to tell your contacts and remind your contacts them top 3 times rather than tell them 10 over that same sort of time period, because it's better to have the reader remember 3 than hear 10 and not really remember any of them. So a lot of times people just need reminding over and over again before they can actually associate something with your brand. So in this instance, it's credibility, and they need to actually be reminded several times of what makes your brand credible before they will remember it and internalize it and associate it with your brand. Next is KISS, or keep it simple, stupid. Again, this is just a reminder to keep your writing as simple as possible. Do not try and sound more sophisticated for the sake of it, or try and sound more or write more sophisticated in the hopes that it will make your brand seem more sophisticated and therefore have more credibility or have more authority. It just doesn't work like that, and people are much rather consume easy to read copywriting, which is more conducive to them reading more of your marketing, getting more exposure to your brand, and then ultimately converting in the end. If you do need to use some sophisticated or scientific terminology within your marketing or within your email marketing, then it's always good to have a sentence following that basically dumbs it down to a much lower rating level. So you can simply follow some sophisticated or complicated or scientific language with what this really means is, or to put it simply, gets the point across much easier without them having to actually figure out what you're trying to say with the scientific terminology or whatever. And oftentimes it can make you or your brand way more relatable to the reader, especially if they're not that sophisticated themselves. The next one is be aware of stimulus hypoesthesia. So this is a term that comes from the medical profession, and typically it's used to describe how people who have been treated with the same medicine over and over again get a tolerance, or it describes how the medicine becomes less effective over time. Now, you can apply this to copywriting and marketing, especially when it comes to words and the phrases that people hear over and over again. There are certain phrases that people hear within the marketing world and within email marketing or direct response marketing or TV marketing that simply don't hold as much weight as they used to. Like, for example, if you see a 6 hours left email subject line during a sale period, like Black Friday, Cyber Monday period, you know what that is. And it's like, it's not something new. It's not something, it doesn't pack as much punch as it used to. And if you're able to simply just change up the word to something different, like 359 minutes left, that creates a different level of curiosity and a different level of intrigue, and it kind of hits the reader harder because it's a new stimulus. This one's kind of hard to understand, but the long short of it all is just be creative and don't try and say things that people have said before, or at least are often said within the online marketing space or within the niche that you're in. The next one is definitely a psychological bias. So it is deprival super reaction tendency. This one I actually got from Charlie Munger, and he talks about it in one of his speeches. It's the whole idea or premise that people are less likely, or they will do more in order to not lose something rather than to gain something. So for example, if you have a salesman or if you're a business owner and you want to incentivize your salesman to do something, if you give the top salesman a Lamborghini or some sports car and say, you can keep this car as long as you hit X goal or X sales goal by the end of the year. This is going to incentivize or produce more of a drive from them to achieve that goal, rather than saying, hey, look, if you get this sales goal by the end of the year, we'll give you this supercar. Because people hate losing something that they already own much more than they are incentivized to gain something that they don't yet own. Next is back to a sort of copy principle / rule. Using you within marketing was a big thing back in the day, and it was probably overdone a little bit, and it's kind of come back somewhat and is used less these days. But using you or the you language within in your copywriting and your marketing, especially within the close or the last closing section of your email or within your sales letter or within whatever copywriting that you're doing. It's especially powerful. But the one cautionary note is to not overdo it. If you finish the sales letter or the copywriting that you're doing and you read through it and you can hear it and it sounds weird, then pull back on it. But just a reminder to make use of this word, really. Like, this is a really simple one, especially within the close of your copywriting or within your email marketing. So the next one is the 2-to-1 rule. So by default, everyone wants to talk about themselves, and they end up talking about themselves way more than they do end up talking about their prospects or their customers within their marketing. And this rule basically is a reminder to talk about or talk to your customers 2 times more than you do talk about yourself, as ultimately the customers are more interested in themselves than they are you, and they didn't opt into your email list or your marketing or whatever, or they didn't click in your ad in order to learn about you. They want to solve the problem or to see how you can serve them. This next one's a bit more of a higher / more advanced copywriting rule to remember, but this is just for myself. And the rule is limiting your transition words. So it's not so much about the words themselves. If you got a sentence that has more than 2 transition words in it, then it often becomes too big and too bloated. And you're better off to cut that sentence up into smaller, more punchy sentences and put them on separate lines, rather than using multiple transition words, like using 3 to 5 transition words in order to make them all fit within one sentence. This next one is just the types of value. So this is from Alex and Rosie. This is just a reminder as to what value actually is and the different ways that you can find it / write about it, or best communicate it to your audience. So if you haven't seen this is the value equation by Alex and Rosie. It's a very powerful equation, and it works like this. The value of a product or of a service is the top aspects divided by the bottom aspects. So it's a dream outcome, how powerful or how desired the dream outcome is, times by the likelihood of perceivement. So is it something they really want, and is the likelihood that they achieve this goal extremely high or low? And then divided by how long it takes, and then how much effort and sacrifice they have to output in order to achieve the goal. So an example of this is for people who have anxiety. If their product is meditation, then their dream outcome is to not have anxiety and be at peace. Their perceived likelihood of achievement may be average or medium, as in they might not know if this really works. The time delay is pretty long, as in they have to learn how to meditate and then actually do the meditation. And then the effort and sacrifice is also average to high, as in they have to actually sit down and meditate and take that time out of the day. So using this value equation for meditation, it comes out to be not valuable of a solution, or not have that much perceived value, not talking about its intrinsic value itself. On the other hand, if we were to use this same example and talk about Xanax or medication as a solution, then the dream outcome is the same. The perceived likelihood of achievement is higher. The time delay is instant, and the effort and sacrifice is swallowing a pill. So it happens quicker, takes less effort, and is more likely to fix their problem or achieve their goal. In this scenario, Xanax would be more valuable, or appear to be more valuable than meditation. Next is pain avoidance. So just a reminder that the majority of the time people are taking actions based on the avoidance of pain rather than the gain of pleasure. So oftentimes within your marketing, it's more powerful and more effective to talk about the negative aspects, or how they can avoid the negative aspects of their solution, rather than just talking about the benefits of getting the solution. The next one is actually an extremely powerful one, especially if you do any sort of e-commerce or are selling multiple products, or doing something that is a commodity or is taken every day by the customer, such as supplements. But do the math, or if you're running any sort of sale at all, do the math on everything. If there's any math involved within your sale or within your product or within your marketing, then don't just say you can save X% off today only. Say 20% off, which comes out to $200 off the product, which equals you saving $2.50 per day or per serve, or something like that. Or if you're selling a product that is bulk and, for example, gives them 3 months supply of something, reframe it from whatever the actual cost is, because that will probably be a more high ticket product or would cost more. Talk less about the total cost and focus more on how much they save buying this product, talking about the cost per day. Because the cost per day of a bulk item always costs less, or should always cost less, than the cost per day of the introductory or smaller version of that item. again, supplements is where we often use this principle within our copywriting. But it really can be applied to anything that is sale related, time related, quantity related, or serving related. Even though oftentimes it seems obvious and the math really isn't hard, the reader or the customer just won't do it. They're super lazy, and you've got to lay it out all for them. The next is relatability. So the more you can relate to your audience, the more they will like and trust you. So for example, this often comes down to the branding of the business or the persona or the influencer or whatever. But the more ways you can relate to your audience, the more they will like and trust you. So for example, if you're a personal fitness coach and someone's looking to lose weight, then that's kind of one thing that you're both aligned with. But if you both also like to lift weights and do powerlifting, then they're going to like you even more. If you both like them two things, but also like to have the odd drink on the weekend, then that's an extra third thing. And if you both like Star Wars, then it's like 4 things. So the more ways you can relate to someone, or the more different things that you can align on that are unrelated with each other, then the more they will know and trust you. So this is less so about you trying to figure out exactly what your audience likes and what TV shows they like, or what's their favorite drink or food or whatever. But it's a reminder to show more of your personality and more of your brand. As the more different things that you can associate with the brand, it increases the likelihood that more people will align with more things associated with your brand, if that makes sense. Using tonality in copy. So tonality is something that is an indicative of sales, but it definitely can be used within copywriting. So this is an Alex Mosey's example, but it uses tonality to talk about how you can make a sentence seem like it says different things. So this is the copywriting example of this. But when you read it out in your head, the tonality often comes across in different. So it means, which results in the sentence meaning something different in your head. So I didn't say he hit his wife. 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 All kind of mean different things. And when you read it with these different formatting, it comes across slightly different. Now, this isn't the best example for copywriting, but it's the best sort of tonality one that I know. So I used it, but again, it's just a reminder that you can use tonality within your copywriting with different formatting and spacing techniques. Next is the real life test. So especially if you're writing from one single persona, then imagine you're talking to the persona sitting in a bar and they're sitting right next to you. And if you know that persona well, you can get a good understanding of what they would actually say. If you're writing copy for a brand or for someone that they wouldn't say in person, then you shouldn't say it in text. So the barstool test is to imagine you sitting next to this person and them talking back to you, or you saying the words to them, and see if it's something you would actually say as a human or as a person, face to face. Do the same thing with your customer. So imagine you're saying the things to the customer and they're sitting right there and you're speaking it to them, person to person. If it's not something you're willing to say in person or doesn't sound right in person, then you probably shouldn't say it in your copy or in text. Next is the ideal outcome. So this pairs with the perfect tell idea as well. The better you can paint the pictures of their ideal outcome and how it affects their life in every different way, as well as describing their perfect tell or how their situation can get extremely bad or the worst situation that it can possibly become, the better you're going to be able to persuade them to take action to avoid their perfect tell and achieve the ideal outcome. And then ideally your product or your service is a solution that helps them achieve their ideal outcome and stay away from their perfect tell. Next is don't harm their ego. So it's very easy to say things within your copywriting that end up harming the reader's ego, especially if you're talking about anything weight loss or weight loss related. It's super easy to trigger basically the reader, and you just want to not put the blame on them. Say it's not your fault. It's actually the government's fault for introducing the food pyramid that's entirely wrong and incentivizes and has told us to eat the wrong things. So it's not your fault, but you now have the choice or the option to make a change. But really avoid ostracizing or putting the blame on them for the decisions that they've already made. Because often, as soon as you harm their ego, the walls go up, the defenses go up, and they'll either stop reading or they will lose all trust / liking of you. Now I'm going to stop here because obviously way more in this document. We're about halfway through. But some of the stuff that's down the bottom of this document are, again, more powerful persuasion methods / techniques that I don't necessarily want to share with everyone at the moment. if I get enough comments and people want to see some more, then I'll definitely add some more, and I might even show the majority of them. But this is basically a mashup of all the different copywriting principles / persuasion methods / cognitive biases that I've picked up over the years, and I thought I would share a few of them, or at least the first half of them. So I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions about any of these things and how to best integrate them with your copywriting or with your marketing, then feel free to reach out. But if you like this video, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to see more, then you can subscribe. All right, cheers.